Hello everyone, this is MHJ Makes, and today I have chosen violence. I decided that I was going to go ahead and embarrass myself on the internet yet again. So basically what I'm doing here is I'm trying to do a dramatic reading of a novel that I tried writing back when I was in high school. I said try because as you can see in the bottom left corner there, it's 66 pages. I never made it past that because... Okay. So for context, I wrote this in high school. I am, as of last month, I'm 28 years old. And I went to high school in the early 2010s. So it's like a decade ago at this point, right? So it's early 2010s, peak teenage cringe. And this is, for all intents and purposes, a self-insert ripoff of Ben 10. Quite literally so. Like, so much so that actually I had to go through this and actually change names and stuff, because I actually used, like, my real name and my friend's real name in this, and, like, just to protect the innocent, I decided to change that. That's why it says, like, I, MHJ Makes here. That it didn't say that originally. I'm just to let you know. Yeah, so basically I'm going to do a dramatic reading of this, or try to. This is actually my second attempt at this. I tried doing a live reading of this earlier today, and, like, it started out really dramatic, but I kind of stopped. Like, I switched to just, like, my normal reading tone halfway through, and it got kind of boring, because this is really not a very good story at all, but... I'm like, that's no fun. While I was editing it, I was like, that's no fun. Let's at least try to make it as dramatic. Let's at least try to read it as if this is a quality story, despite the fact that it's not. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a dramatic reading. I'll throw in commentary here and there, try to limit it to maybe like 2-3 comments per page. But yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this. I, MHJ Makes, am infiltrating a building. This 32-story building may seem normal to the average person, but I knew what was inside. In the interior of the building were groups of henchmen working for the psychotic Hypnospear, a man who terrorizes citizens with hypnosis. I quickly dropped down inside, landing with perfect balance. I quietly walked through the building, trying to avoid anyone spotting me. After searching through several rooms, I finally found Hypnospear. "This is it, Psycho. I'm going to finish this now," I yelled. "Or so you think," he replied. I dashed towards him, pulling out my sword at the same time. I slashed at him, intending to slice through him. Time will pause for now as I explain why this happened, why I am doing this. Chapter 1, A New Beginning. Today is September 14th, my 15th birthday. Most of my presents were the usual stuff. Money, video games, etc. However, my dad gave me a ring with the Medici Armorial on it. The Medici Armorial was a gold shield with 6 circles on it. The top circle was blue with 3 brown fleur-de-lis on it. The other circles were red. There were 2 red circles on either side of the shield, and a final one at the bottom. The ring was made out of a brilliant silver. It was hard to believe that it was nearly 600 years old. My father received the ring from his father on his 15th birthday as well. "This ring has brought me many great memories. Hopefully it will bring you some too, son," my father said. "Thanks, Dad. This is amazing." I put on the ring with the expression of a parent seeing their child graduate from high school. "Come on, everybody. Let's go goof off outside," I yelled. It was a perfectly sunny day. There was not a cloud in the sky. My neighborhood was very quiet and peaceful. There was a forest in my backyard. You would often see deer and foxes there. Occasionally a car would pass by. Every person kept their yards freshly cut and green. You could hear birds chirping in the background. It was a kind of area you'd expect to see in a utopian movie. Context, this is actually quite literally my actual backyard when I was in high school. It was basically just a standard Northern Virginia McMansion. There was nothing utopian about it. "Let's play hide and seek," said my sister. My sister was pretty tall for her age, although short compared to me. Her hair was in braids and she had pink glasses on. She was wearing a tie-dye t-shirt and black jeans. She also had on flip-flops. Even though she is 11, she looks like she is 16, which is why everybody thinks she's older than me. "Hide and seek is for little kids," I said. No, it's fun. MHJ makes. MHJ makes, you're only turning 15. You don't need to completely forget about fun, said my friend R. In total, I had 4 friends come over to my house. There were J, N, R, and RY. J and N were brothers. They both had brown hair, and they both kept low cuts. At 16, N was the oldest kid in the group. He was also the tallest. He had a black t-shirt on with a pair of blue jeans. N wore glasses and had a bit of an acne problem. It wasn't as bad as some people, but he wasn't clear-faced either. I was my age. Unlike N, I didn't wear glasses. Jay didn't wear glasses. Jay was wearing a blue hoodie and a pair of jeans. Then there was R. He had a blonde military fade. R wore glasses and he had a bit of an acne problem. He had blue and green braces. He was wearing khaki shorts and a gray t-shirt. Finally, we had my friend RY. Although he was the friendliest, he had a very goth appearance. He had straight black hair and black contacts. He had multiple piercings in his ears. He was wearing a black t-shirt with dark blue shorts. He also had spiked leather wristbands. After a game of rock, paper, scissors, RY was proclaimed it. He started counting down from 30. Immediately, everybody started running. I hid in a patch of bushes behind my house. While I was hiding, a red bolt of electricity zapped my ring. The flash was so hot that it melted the ring into my skin, although I didn't feel it. The ring was melted in enough that you couldn't tell that it was there unless you looked closely. Unfortunately, there's no way I could make up a lie that could explain how I magically lost a custom-fitted ring from the Italian Renaissance. I don't know why we had this, because again, this is a self-insert. My family is not Italian. I think we have, according to 23andMe, 16% British Irish in us, but, no. Even if I told the truth, which most likely wasn't going to happen, how would they believe a random bolt of electricity blasted me during a clear day? Either way, I was screwed. I decided to play it off. Hopefully nobody noticed it. Who am I kidding? A random bolt of electricity was a hard thing to miss. Aha! I found you! Yelled my friend RY. You sound so excited. Didn't you see what just happened? I asked. RY gave me a puzzled look. He quickly put on a friendly mask. Nah, man. What happened? Nothing. I just zoned out for a minute. That's all. Okay, we'll go with the other busted people. Wait, so I'm not the last kid? RY rolled his eyes. Dude, you're not going to get us to the same spot every time. With a disappointed sigh, I got up and walked. We had a great time after that. That was until 8 o'clock when R, the last kid there, left. I felt nervous about telling Dad what happened to the ring, so I decided to tell him the next day. I was very tired. I fell asleep as soon as I hit the bed. I woke up at 9:30. It was the teacher's workday and my sister was over at her friend's house. I was naturally in a good mood. I turned the TV on, which was on the morning news. This just in, a cruise ship is sinking, said a reporter from the Channel 9 News. The reporter seemed to be in his late 20s. He was clean-shaven, he was wearing a blue shirt and a red tie with black slacks. He had short, well-cut brown hair. Judging by the importance of the report, I assumed he was a veteran reporter. This is how you can tell that I was 15 when I wrote this, because my idea of a veteran reporter is someone who is in their late 20s. Well, I mean, by that point, you have a fair bit of experience, but I wouldn't exactly call that a veteran reporter, right? He was reporting at a harbor about 25 miles from my house. The ship in the background was halfway submerged. Hi, I'm JR from Channel 9 News. I'm reporting in front of a sinking ship. This 5,400 passenger ship was just about to set sail to Panama. A fuel tank exploded in the ship, burning several lifeboats. With only enough rescue boats to save the women and children and no possible ways to save the rest, these innocent people may very well lose their lives. What? That's crazy, I yelled. A sudden shock fell upon me as my ring started glowing. It was a dark red. I tapped it to see if it would stop glowing. Instantly, a blue screen projected from the ring. What the heck? I didn't know how to change my ring back to normal, so I touched this image with the symbol of a water drop on it. I grew gills on my neck and webbed feet. I fell down. I couldn't breathe. I crawled over to my dresser and noticed the gills on my neck, although I had my doubts. I crawled over to the bathroom and splashed water on them. It was just enough to notice that these really were gills. Wow, I can save people. ... I think. I put on a Halloween mask and ran to the nearest lake. My crazy move caused some people to notice me. Most of them were calling me things like nerd and idiot. I jumped into a lake and began swimming. I felt relieved that I could breathe again. By the time I got to the ship, it was almost completely submerged. I kicked a window open. It took about 3 good kicks to break the window. I entered one of the restaurants in the ship. Okay. The entire place was filled with shattered dishes and debris. I searched around to see if there were any survivors. All of them were dead. Maybe there are some survivors in the upper level, I said, underwater. I quickly left the restaurant. The hallways were filled with families dressed and ready for vacation. It wasn't lethal. All the survivors were at the top floor. I grabbed one survivor who started beating me up. I brought him to shore, which is now crowded by hundreds of people. I then proceeded to the next survivor. It felt like seconds in between each save. I managed to save the last living guy. Unfortunately, out of the 5,400 passengers, only 100 were still alive by the time I got there. Most of them lost family members. I could feel the pain that they felt. If I had known about my powers a day ago, I would have been able to save much more. From that day on, I vowed to never be late for a rescue ever again. News reporters tried to ask me question, but I jumped back in the water and swam away. I arrived at the house about 20 minutes after I left. I made sure that no one was watching, and then I entered my house. I tapped my ring to see if I could turn to my normal self. When I tapped it, I was transported to this weird white room. There were flashing buttons and images everywhere. There was a cockpit with many controls at the far end of the room. There were wee crazy sounds everywhere. It was the kind of room you'd expect to see in a weird sci-fi movie. A weird blue humanoid gelatinous figure walked towards me. It seemed to me about 8 feet tall, and it had 3 yellow dots on what I assumed was the head. It was dressed in a white lab coat. "Greetings, young man," said the figure in a deep, husky voice. "Are you an..." I began. "Alien?" he finished for me. "Yes, I am," he said. "Why am I here?" Why am I here? Why is that so dramatic? Why am I here? This is the tutorial room. Every person comes here after they've used our technology for the first time. Technology? You didn't think a random blast of electricity was a mere coincidence, did you? Why did it zap me? The creature gave a sigh and an expression that looked like he knew that this was going to be a long conversation. Well, if you must know, our race, the Platubes, have the ability to transform any source of metal into technology with a simple zap of electricity. Platubes? Okay, I'm ready to wake up now. This is no dream. It was by fate that you touched the water image. If you had touched any of the other ones, you would have simply stayed the same. Why are there blank images? The water function was a mandatory function, since so many people wanted to study water creatures. All the other ones are for you to choose. I don't understand. Why would you give me something this advanced? We didn't think humans would be able to comprehend this technology. Then again, we haven't been to Earth in several million years. So, people want to become superheroes in other planets? No. Superheroes are an idiotic representation of a will to protect that we outgrew decades ago. Its original purpose was for study and as a play toy for the kids, although I'm sure you could use it for that, as degrading as it sounds. Okay, I have 2 more questions. How do I add powers and how do I get back to Earth? You see that room over there? He asked while pointing to a room on the far left of what seemed like an endless hallway. Go in there and customize your powers. It will give you a tutorial on how to add powers. After you're finished, press the red button inside the room, and you'll be instantly transported back to Earth. Time unchanged from when you left. Be warned, after you transport back to Earth, all your powers will be permanent, so choose wisely. Thank you. My pleasure. I started walking down the long hallway. There were several unique rooms. There was one for studying, aquatics, weaponry, and much more. Greetings, said an electronic voice. We will now scan you. A green ray appeared at my feet and slowly rose up to my head. Subject 2113, race, human, it said. A door opened up and I went inside. The door closed after I entered. Inside the room was a white seat, sitting in front of a huge tutorial screen. The tutorial screen had a message written in a weird language. It quickly translated into English. I sat in the seat. It was a new feeling that I never felt before. It was neither soft nor hard. It was something completely new. After about an hour's worth of decisions, I came up with 7 cliché powers, which were fire, flight, earth, the ability to shrink, electricity, speed, and ice powers. I also came up with a few uncommon powers, which were the ability to turn into a werewolf, the ability to walk on stars, the ability to scan and turn into objects, the ability to have awesome agility and mastery of all weapons, assassin power. Hint, hint, that's Assassin's Creed. And the ability to turn into a Grim Reaper-like figure that could go inside and take over bodies. After I returned home, I put on some dry clothes and redid my hair. I took a look at the news. There were reports of casualties. Some of the people being interviewed were talking about me. A lot of them wanted me to come back. Some said I was a loser and that I should leave the vigilante business to the cops. Got a tough crowd. My parents came home around 2 o'clock. My mom was dressed in a military camouflage outfit, and my dad was dressed in an apricot shirt and a black tie. He was also wearing black slacks. "Hello," I said. "Oh, hey. How did you get those cuts on your face?" my mom asked. "Oh, I fell down the stairs," I lied. I have to remember to think of an excuse for any injuries from now on, I thought to myself. "Oh," my mom said with a suspicious look on her face. I had to think of a better excuse than that. There's no way I could have gotten a bruised eye and a swollen lip from a simply falling down the stairs. "You just fell down the stairs?" She had this look like she wasn't buying it. "Well, I fell down pretty hard. I slipped and fell straight flat on my face. This caused my lip to swell. I slid down the stair on my eye. That caused it to bruise." "Interesting." She looked at me with a suspicious look, but she started talking about something else. "So how was your day?" "The usual." Recorded in front of a live studio audience, I said. I went to bed around 8 o'clock. I went to sleep with one thing on my mind. How am I going to fight crime during a school day? Okay, that was the first chapter. So, just a little bit of, background here. The cruise ship, I don't know why, first of all, I don't know why they're heading to Panama from Northern Virginia, but actually in my mind when I wrote this, I had initially envisioned, what do I call it? I initially pictured it in, Virginia Beach. But Virginia Beach is much more than 25 miles from where I grew up, so I don't know. Anyway, also, tough crowd. I save people, man. Why is it that, this guy's oh, you should say this to the police. What were the police gonna do? What were the police? That was, I don't know. Anyway, chapter 2, Getting Used to Life as a Hero. My alarm clock went off at 5 o'clock a.m. The first thing I did was tap my ring. Like I expected, a blue screen projected. Wow, this really is real. I might as well test it out. I selected my speed function. I then got ready for school. What would normally take me 20 minutes took me 2 minutes with my speed power. I dashed downstairs into my kitchen. I then prepared my breakfast in 10 seconds. After that, I watched some TV. I didn't bother looking at the news, mostly because I didn't feel like getting involved with something at 5:04 in the morning. My mom then dropped me off at my bus stop, 6:25. The bus arrived at around 6:30. The bus was very quiet. Everybody was either sleeping or listening to their MP3 player. I sat next to R.Y. He was wearing the same looking clothes that he wore to my party. He looked very tired. "Hey," I said. "Not now. I'm tired," R.Y. said. "Didn't get much sleep?" "No, I didn't get any at all." "That sucks. I'll talk to you later then." He dozed off about 10 seconds after that. I arrived at school thinking I was invincible. My high school was pretty big. There are 2 floors and 3 staircases. Everybody hung out at the main staircase in the morning. The other ones were just for convenience. They made it easier to get to class in the morning. Wow. And they were there if you had no time to take the main staircase, which was always crowded. There were blue and gold lockers on either side of the hallways. Each hallway is made for a certain subject. My first class was math. The classroom seemed a little different than normal. The desks were set in a diagonal form instead of the original vertical settings. I hope that... Okay, that just got a Steam notification. I hope that doesn't actually appear on my recording. The desks were set in diagonal form instead of the original vertical setting. Another difference was that the old chalkboard had been replaced by a dry erase board. I see Miss Mortar had some renovations over the weekend, I thought to myself. Welcome back, class. Today we are going to talk about congruency statements. Mrs. Mortar was wearing a black polo shirt and khaki pants. She has curly black hair. She has a distinct British accent and very weak legs. Because of this, she usually walked with a cane. She is also short. Most people in my class are taller than her. I pulled out a notebook. Although, I didn't take notes. I spent my entire class period writing ideas for how I'm going to train with my powers. Maybe I can train in a sewer. No, a lot of sewers have flammable gas in there, and if I train with my fire powers, I'd be toast. Literally. Maybe I can train in the woods. No, that would... Mr. MHJ Mix, what is the answer to this problem? Angle side angle? Correct. That was a close one. I need to pay more attention. The rest of the day went by smooth. By the time I returned home, I had 360 sheets of ideas. I spent the next 2 hours deciding what should and shouldn't be done. After that, I went on the computer for research on any abandoned areas. It turned out that there was an abandoned metro center a couple miles away. The next step was the hard part, getting 13 unique costumes for each individual power. It could have been easier just to get one, but I wanted to have something I wanted to have some originality. How many superheroes have more than one costume? I did some research. Most of the people that did that business were either in an asylum or dead. I was just about to give up until I found a dealer that stood out from the rest. His name was John Jeremy Sylvester. He was the heir to an incredible family fortune. Like most people with large sums of money, he decided to live off that alone with no job. He spent most of his life making cool costumes. Since it was a very large business, he was able to keep his money in order. I looked up his address and how to get costumes. You have to show up in person with drawings and exact details on how you want your costume to be made. Because he was rich, I would be able to get costumes made exactly the way that I wanted to. I then made careful decisions on how I wanted them to be made. After that, I selected my speed function, grabbed an old Halloween mask, and ran to his location. I made it to his house 10 minutes after I left. I then selected my assassin power. I owned a very large mansion. The mansion was green. There was a long circular driveway designed for limousine pickup. The grass was a perfect green and perfectly cut. There was a statue of Obadiah Sylvester in the center of the driveway. He was the original owner of the house. It was surrounded by an elegantly made fountain. The house was beautiful, like all mansions should be. I rang the doorbell, which made a ding so loud that you could probably hear it a mile away. A tall butler in a blue tuxedo answered the door. He spoke in a very thick German accent. He had green eyes and his hair was thinning at the top. He had dark gray hair. For all my German viewers, I apologize in advance. Welcome to the Master Sylvester's mansion. How may I help you? Asked the butler. I disguised my voice to sound like a 20-year-old man. I'm here to talk about costumes with Mr. Sylvester. 1 second, please. The man closed the door. He didn't return for another 2 minutes. The master is waiting for you in the manufacturing room. Allow me to lead the way. Thank you. The door led to a large living room. At the very end of the room was a fireplace. Above the fireplace were 2 large pictures of a man and a woman. Around the walls were bookshelves. In the middle was a carpet made out of bearskin and a leather chair next to it. Typical 40s-style mansion, I said. Yes, the master likes keeping the mansion the way his parents did. We entered a hallway that led to an elevator at the very end. There were several rooms that I didn't pay much attention to. We then entered the elevator. Inside the elevator was a leather pew. The walls were made out of a very smooth stone and had quotes from famous politicians engraved on them. The elevator went through 10 floors. The butler... I'm sorry. Just like, there were several rooms that I didn't pay attention to. Love the detail there. Okay. Get back into it. The butler selected the basement. We entered the basement. On the 2 sides were displays of very original costumes encased in a glass window. At the end was Mr. Sylvester wearing a red tuxedo. He was also losing hair on the top of his scalp. He had a pair of reading glasses on. Master, your client is here to see you. The butler then entered the elevator. And now I already offended my British viewers already, I'm sure, but we're going to do it again. Greetings, Mr. Sylvester. Greetings. Whom am I doing business with? He spoke in a very proper British accent. I'd rather not reveal my identity. Oh, I presume that you'd rather not let me know your identity once you became a vigilante. No. I'm just a representative for the group of heroes I'm working for. Well then, hand over the designs. Well then, let's begin. I slowly walked towards him and handed him the papers. These costumes seem a bit too comic-like. I see no point in making a water necklace if you breathe air. Why'd I make a costume with friction-proof shoes if the average person can't run fast enough to melt their shoes? The organization has its reasons. I see. Normally schemes like this would cost you a couple $1,000,000. However, since I'm feeling generous today, I'll give them to you for $500,000. What? Can't I get it any cheaper? Costumes this advanced will take weeks to make. Not only that, but I have to go to several places to get the material needed for these costumes. Also, I'm spending my time making these for you. Personally, I think it's worth that much. Okay, take two. Personally, I think that's worth money itself. If you want it done cheaper, contact someone else. Forget it. I'll do business elsewhere. I'm sorry, kid. You can't expect to get costumes for free anywhere. The German butler from before entered the room. Master, the Uright is here. Thank you, he replied. He then turned to me. Now if you'll excuse me, I must be on my way, and piss off! He walked into the elevator and went to the first floor. Mr. Sylvester entered his limousine. It was long and white. Each window had a golden frame around it. The tires were white walls. It was very unique. When the butler opened the door, a big guy in a leather jacket and a ski mask pulled out a gun on Mr. Sylvester. He shot the butler and pulled Mr. Sylvester into the car. Oh crap, I yelled. I quickly alerted the police. They were too busy at a shootout somewhere else. However, the medical said they'd be able to take care of the butler very quickly. Looks like I'm going to have to save him. And that's where I ended off in my first recording, because my original recording, I got bored because this isn't good, and so I just stopped right there. So I'm gonna stop it right there, and if you guys are interested, I'll maybe do a continuation of this, and maybe we can end up finishing this whole thing. I also have another story that was written a couple years later, as late high school, early college. I could also do that one too. That one's probably a bit less cringe though, unfortunately. But yeah, this was fun. Just a couple notes. I suppose we can do a bit of dev diary here. So, Mr. Sylvester, in case you couldn't tell, is very obviously, that's a ripoff, kind of a ripoff of Edna Mode from The Incredibles. Obadiah Sylvester, that's after Amadeus Sylvester, the founder of Arkham, because, again, this is the early 2010s, so, the Batman Arkham games are really popular, and I just wanted to steal from that motif. Yeah, this was interesting. I'm glad I did a second read-through of it, where I got a chance to actually be a little bit more dramatic with it. I think that this video is going to be so much better than the previous one. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I'll go ahead and plug my stuff in as well. So, for those of you who don't know, my name is Dimitri Makes. I write. I have an online screenplay series that takes place in a dieselpunk 1950s Japan. I try to update new chapters monthly. The link is available in the description. I promise the writing and that is at least tangentially, at least a little bit better than the writing here. You can go ahead and check that out if you want to. Aside from that, I don't know, maybe see you in the next one if I decide to do another one. See ya!